Hi, LIS 536. I'm your boy Solon. I'm your reader grader usually, but tonight I get to put on a different hat. I get to be your guest lecturer, which I'm stoked about. Lane gave me the opportunity, and we're going to go on a journey tonight. I want you to take a bit. I know it's the holidays. It's Thanksgiving week. It's chilly out, but this will warm you up. If you need to take an hour, oh god, don't look at how long this video is, but if you want to take a little time away from your family for the holiday week, this will be a great excuse. We're gonna have an awesome time tonight talking about the whole reason that I'm a librarian. The whole reason that I'm here is because I happen to know a field of study that is otherwise unknown. It is hard to identify. It's impossible, even. We're going to talk about the impossible thing that is harnessing and capturing play. We're going to metaphorically capture and hold a cloud in our hands and classify it and chop it up into little bits and figure out all the fluff that's inside of it. This has been the theme of our entire class, right? We're doing metadata for interactive media, and while we've been talking about games, the complex form that it comes in, because it's video, it's audio, it's technical coding, there's rules and mechanics and systems and all of this complex stuff, companies that develop it and the business that goes on inside of it, long credits lists. That's all great, but they're making it for players, right? What about what they're doing with the games? Are they playing them? We're not sure. How do I say this? We don't know if they're playing them. We have a couple shorthands, like video game designers know players don't read. I don't read. I've never read in my life. I'm a librarian. We know that players don't look up. And so put things in their line of sight and then guide them upwards with yellow paint. We we know these things about players' behaviors to an extent, but what are they doing when they play a video game? We're going to classify that today. And I've been a games player in a professional sense. I've been the player of games for about 13, 14 years. I have performed alongside games in every possible venue, genre, style. I really do. I can say that I have done it all. I've performed on stage. I have performed in the gamer seat for a very long time. I've done Let's Plays. I've recorded things with face cam. I've recorded things without face cam, which is a very different field. It's so fun. Highly recommend it. Everyone should make a Let's Play. All right, this show's over. Go have fun. Tonight's a complex thing. We're going to talk about all of the artifacts that come out of playing a video game. And so when we talk about the field of playing games, usually it is thought of as the output, the exhaust fumes of a video game. It is second class to the video game itself. And we're going to see that in a couple of different ways. And my argument is that if you do that, you'd lose. Not just like you lose a game or you lose something, like your field of theory and thought is faulty and fails and needs pushing back against. So we're going to take a lot of time to unpack all of the ways people play games. We're going to talk about what that means to the field of game studies. We're going to talk about how what the consequences are of classifying games in this way, what the risks are of classifying games, what the possibilities, what the things that we could get out of this that could be very fundamentally important, fruitful to the field of librarianship. And so this is my big performance, my urge to everyone. We're going to find a new way to talk about video games, and it's going to happen tonight. So this may be a long video, but I'm going to blow your mind at least once. I promise. Streamers promise that your mind will be blown tonight. This is all live. We're doing this in one take. We're just going to do it all in one go because I've been a video editor for a long time, long enough to know better. So let's start by talking about Tetris. This is a Game Scouts video on a new Tetris technique, one that I'm sure you all know very well, because in this class, we studied Tetris during Quest 2, we learned and picked out all of the mechanics of Tetris, and I'm wondering if anyone happened to, you hold your NES like this normally, if anyone on their NES controllers happened to play Tetris like this.
In late 2020, a few people in the community experimented with alternative hand positions that could get multiple fingers access to the tiny buttons. All of these methods sort of worked, but had various drawbacks in comfort, consistency, and long-term viability, especially in also being to rotate at the same time. But eventually, one player came up with a simple idea. Instead of trying to roll the buttons on the D-pad, or rolling the finger on top of the D-pad, what if you just rolled the entire controller? The method was first discovered by Cheesefish, who was inspired to try rolling while hanging out on a Jake Games 2 livestream when a random person in the chat had the misconception that Jake was rolling his hand because the slow frame rate of his webcam made it hard to tell. Cheese watched a YouTube tutorial on button mashing where a player was getting extra taps on a GameCube controller by pushing the controller into the finger over the buttons from the other side. So he started trying techniques that involved hitting the controller itself. Cheese's grip holds his thumb still over the D-pad and rolls the fingers of his other hand across the bottom of the controller.
So, Cheese's grip. I wanted to know, this is a perfect metaphor for this entire video. The controller's upside down. But who cares, right? That's not important anymore. The orientation of the controller, if someone designed the controller with an orientation in mind, that's not what we do here at NES Tetris. Maybe that's what you did 30 years ago or 40. Oh boy. We're going to fundamentally change how games get played, right? And so we need to look at this at all angles. And Cheese's grip is a perfect first place to look at it. And as you know, obviously this video, this tutorial on how, it's not even a tutorial, just an explanation video on how this happens. This is an artifact of play. This is one of our play artifacts that we're going to be looking at. Also, let's make one. Since we're live, I'm going to go play Tetris and I'm going to make a little artifact for you. We're not going to play with the mouse. I learned my lesson from the live stream we did on this topic. What we're going to do is, I'm going to put a little piece here, put a little piece there, just going to slap some pieces down. Don't mind me. Did you know that all of the Tetris pieces are not random? Not anymore. They used to be. In that NES game, the reason hyper tapping exists because every piece is random. You don't know when the next line piece is coming. However, in this version, there are a few things that I know. I know that within, I think it's 15, 7 times 2 pieces, I will get a piece. And I've been looking for this T-block. So as you can see, I've set things up in a way that seems like it might be advantageous. This is called the DT cannon. And it works a little something like this. 1, 2, and 3. Mini T-spin back to back, single. Do you see that? Those are very different rules than the normal rule set for Tetris. NES Tetris did not have combos, did not have back-to-back T-spins. These are new things because they reward play in a different way. And so the way that you play modern Tetris is fundamentally different than how you'd play NES Tetris, which makes them different in such a way that they're both awesome. And this comes from play. This does not come from game designers being super smart. There's a little bit of that going on too, but the ways people play games change how the games get made. And so while there may be a Tetris that focuses on hyper-tapping, it would not look like this Tetris, because this Tetris was built in order to stop line pieces. In order to give power to the other pieces of Tetris, they've added new combos. And so that's how play transforms games, and that is one artifact of play that we just made. Let's talk about the most famous play artifact. This is it. This is Evo Moment 37. And it is, without a doubt, the most important play artifact. If you're a gamer, you know, I'm speaking to the choir here. If you're not a gamer, that's an insane thing to say. This is a load-bearing, single most important play artifact that we have it in HD. Librarianship stuff. This is 2004. This is camera footage. It's gonna be like hand camera footage overlaid over gameplay footage. This is a rebroadcast of this moment that Evo, the company that does fighting game tournaments, put it on because it's their Evo from 2004. If it wasn't for them, this moment could very easily be lost. Many moments of play like it are lost all the time. And so with that in mind, let's talk about Evo Moment 37. Evo is a fighting games tournament, and the game that we are playing tonight, The Beast is Unleashed, is Street Fighter. Street Fighter 2 Turbo, am I correct? We have Daigo as Ken on one side and Justin Wong as Chun-Li on the other side. And Daigo has no health left. This is the finals of this Evo. And so you can see the problem. Justin needs to clean out this set. Justin needs to finish this so that the game can be over. They're at one stock apiece, so whoever wins this round wins Evo. I don't know if that's the stock they're at, but the problem is all Chun-Li has to do with all of her meter is spend it. Because if he blocks, the chip damage will kill him. And there's nothing else he could do about that except for one thing. It's frame perfect, and I don't think it'll happen.
Now on the verge of putting Daigo down 1-0.
Careful. Finish it. And that's how Daigo won Evo 2004. To Justin Wong's, at his extent. That was, I believe it's 14 parries in a row. That is, the super involves hitting the parry button at the exact time 14 times in a row with the space in the middle for the second flurry of kicks that Chun-Li does. And Daigo parried every single one of them. This has become a meme. That one play artifact obviously has become a meme in a lot of different ways. And so here's how these play artifacts can start to get a life of their own, right?
Huh? He got this? Let's go, Justin! Oh,
Poor guy. This is Justin Wong, incredible gamer, player, obviously one of the best Street Fighter players of all time. This recently the game came out. Street Fighter 2 Turbo got put onto Steam in a compilation that meant that it now had online play for the first time ever. And so this started happening where Justin would go into lobbies and the worst moment of his life, where he got beat so badly.
this not scripted, bro. He Daigo'd.
He Daigo'd. And so it could go the other way too. But this is 6 minutes straight of him getting parried. And that's amazing. That's fun, right?
Man. That's crazy, bro.
Got the spark over the top. Where does this go from here? Sorry, I'm live. Oh, right. So, if it wasn't for Evo, this is the only version of it that otherwise exists. This is 1.1 million views. This is the librarianship part of this. But this is the original artifact. This is the one that everyone knows. It looks as grainy as we are reproducing it. Do not adjust your screens. This is the original quality of this upload to YouTube from 15 years ago. You can feel how little the game matters after a certain point, just because like they show this, they zoom this hand cam footage of a crowd screaming their guts out over this. But this is the original, right? This is Nightmare Zero's upload of Evo Moment 37, and if it wasn't for Evo, the events company, putting together an HD release of this, which they may not have had, they definitely didn't need it. This would be the quality that we have of one of the most important moments in gaming. It's so important that re-upload of Third Strike
come on, bro.
has a tutorial on how to do the Daigo parry. It has become so prolific that, oh, I had this timestamped, and now the timestamp is gone.
5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Nope. See, the thing is, about this trial, you have to parry Chun-Li's super attack with the parry that's in the air, and then high kick, mid kick, sure you can, Shippujinrai Kyaku. You have to do the entire set with the same health values in order to clear this. You have to parry the whole thing, including the jump, right?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Block. And even when you do it in this game, they put an overlay of little guys clapping for you because it's such a big deal. They like change everything about how the training menu works just for this moment, just so that you get to have a moment where you're Daigo, even if you are Justin Wong. Even after, what was it, 20 years, 2004 to 2023? Yeah, after 19 years, even Justin Wong gets to have his Daigo moment. So yeah, this is obviously really important to everybody. This is important to so many folks that this moment happened. To have this happen at a tournament level live is nearly impossible. To not have nerves while you are parrying 14 attacks at once, to do something no one else has done that they then have to make tutorials about to teach you how to do it, to show that yes, you can, that it is physically possible to do. This is Evo Moment 38.
He's not dead yet. Do we go for the cross of Tatsu? He goes for the universal overhead, then backs away, dashes up in danger. Chip. Oh my god, no. Okay. Oh my god! How did he do that? He went past the SA3! He went for the roundhouse! He jumped over completely!
Do you understand? That is a worthless button. That button is so worthless, but he was able to make it useful in a...
So, one of the things that comes up with play-based artifacts is that they are very hard to parse. In the best of times. We're going to go through a lot of things that may be very confusing tonight. But this, quoted as Evo Moment 38, this one's unique. And you can tell that things have changed in Evo. It is a much bigger tournament. The stakes are much higher. And yet, with 0 health in the bar, these are characters that are the completely different shapes, sizes. The only similarity is that Ken is here, but in this case, he's the attacker. He's not even the defender. So Hugo has to make this up on the fly. And the thing that gets made up is that he blocks and parries while jumping in midair. This is not normal. To predict that someone is going to jump and use their super, and that you will frame tech every single one of these, 1, 2, 3, know that you'll have enough height to be able to interrupt the special with useless button, and then not only finish, but also we have now reset again. He still has to hit that last pixel. Instead of hitting, he jumps again, dodging another super, because all Ken has to do is hit anything at all. Even if it gets blocked, we'll kill him. Yeah, no, it doesn't happen, does it? So, incredible. Just the things that players can do is amazing. And that's why it's important to try to break these things down. Let's look at this from the other angle. Let's talk about shooters. Let's talk about the most famous first-person shooter clip, something of the same ilk. This one's very fun and very short.
Okay. Oh! Oh my god! Oh!
Did you see what happened? No, you didn't. Let's break this down in slow motion.
Oh my fucking god!
360.
No, get the camera! Money! Money!
Mom, get the camera. 360 no scopes. This is not a behavior that game designers put into the game. Players just do that stuff. Why? Because it rocks. They do it so much that it becomes this own meme. Here's a COD montage video. Montage videos are another form of play that always gets pushed to the side, and a Call of Duty montage video, of course, would get marginalized extremely quickly in any kind of scholarly community.
Stopping us from just throwing ourselves off a bridge and giving up and saying, yeah, the planet is dying, the government hates us, the animals are leaving, the aliens aren't contacting us, we might be alone, it just might be you and me, but that's okay, because do you really need anyone else?
What did you just witness? Let's break down what I just showed you, because it's complicated, right? You just got finished trying to figure out what a spinning attack is in a Call of Duty game. This is Invader V's.
The aliens.
She's just a fun ranter. It's awesome, and she's juxtaposed against a Call of Duty montage to prove that, do you need anyone else? No. If you've got a 5 kill streak, you don't need anyone else. That you can do it on your own. It's this very uplifting message put against 30 Seconds to Mars's The Kill, right? And so very fun, but also very complex for something that seems so trivial. And so you ask, Solon, are you going to try to make this seem important? Why would you why care about this? Well, I argue it's because other people care. How much do other people care about silly memes that involve video game play? Well, they care about this much. So this is a TikTok of that same video, same kill cam montage, but at the 30 Seconds to Mars concert during their hit song, The Kill. This is a person who waited through multiple acts, I would assume. So 6-7 hours with this plan in mind, from the, nice $50, $60 seats, flames going up in the background. It's incredible. This too is an artifact of play. The context has changed, but yet it still lands in my purview. And so that's why that brings us to the main points here. Let's start getting some actual slides on screen. Let's start doing some learning. Classification of play-based artifacts. We're going to go through 3 types, and I put them in tiers because I want this to be so simple. The first tier, the ones that we've been talking about, all of these to some extent, are going to fall under the concept of document forming, where you have played something and formed a document out of that play. We'll get to the other 2. I'll sneak peek them for you. I should show them, while we get to them, but this is going to come up. So the reason that there's 3 tiers here is because these kind of can combine into each other in a lot of ways. Outside of document forming, then there is play sharing, where you're sharing the play with someone else, for someone else, you're co-playing something. There's a lot of forms that this could turn into, and we're going to talk about all of them. This could be Let's Plays, where they are sharing their play with others, and it's not for the sake of like a review or forming some kind of bigger document out of the play. It is just for sharing the play as it happened. There's close playing and folk tales. We'll talk about all of these. And then our outermost circle here that kind of contains all the others is play capture, the much more base level of, hey, we're just capturing play. We are not applying it in any way whatsoever. And the reason that we break down these classifications is because I believe that they inform what artifacts get made. If you look at it from this perspective of how the play gets churned, worked on, edited, constructed, that can guide how we understand play, especially for video game artifacts. And so we're going to start right at the core. We're going to get to the good stuff first, the stuff that's easy. Let's talk about docs. Here's a document. This is a tutorial. This is a walkthrough. Do you remember GameFAQs? GameFAQs is a beautiful site with some of the most beautiful text you'll ever see. This is Final Fantasy VII, the Ultimate Strategy Guide by Absolute Steve. And this is like the foremost text on everything in Final Fantasy VII. And it comes out in fun ways. So I had us down here at the very bottom of everything because here's the lyrics to One Winged Angel, the boss theme song of the game, with Latin lyrics, how it's sung, and then a translation in English right alongside it. That's very, this is stuff made for players by players. Are you not convinced? Well, let's talk about these graphs. Let's talk about these are the encounters that you will find on every section of the game. But let's talk about these big numbers in the middle, because this is the show stealer. This is goop. This is a lot of stuff. This is level by level, every stat for every player in the game. Now, when you're making a game, usually you would just put a little like algorithm together, just a little algebra that guides how a player levels up. As a player, that doesn't matter. The algorithm, I don't care what the algorithm is. I care what the output is, and I put it into raw data packs right here because for some players, these numbers very much matter. One way this matters, the very bottom here, actually, we'll go back again, where the glitches and the tricks are. Oh, this is the best of. Yeah, right underneath One Winged Angel. Tricks, all lucky sevens. Here's some ways to get your character to have HP 7,777, which is not a normal amount of HP, but in this game, it's a win button. You get to do 482,000 damage for free for no reason, just because it's a fun little gimmick. So here's all the ways that you could take advantage of that to make sure that you're always at 7,777 health and always doing this nutso amount of damage. That obviously isn't how the game was intended to be played, but it's allowed. That's all placed in text in places that have been organized for readers to understand the game, to understand it at a very general level. And text has other websites. You can look at other walkthroughs for other websites. They pale in comparison to the text-based walkthrough because organizing by text allows you to have markers. The markers are easy to Control F and search through the document to find. They're very pretty. They look great. They're organized in ways for players to understand. The more modern version of this, GameFAQs actually uses an HTML base that you can make really beautiful HTML documents for. I could show more of that, but I think this gets the point that one of our core, like original documents that you would make to express play is the walkthrough. It's a very humble start. There's also tutorial videos about how to play your game. And this is going to cause some tension because this is technically a way that you can play. Here's a tutorial for how to play Super Mario 64. You are going to collect the Watch for Rolling Rock Star, and you're going to do it while hitting the A button 0.5 times. This is a 24.5-minute video. We're going to take just a snippet out of it because you'll get the rest of the picture after that, I hope. Probably not. It's complicated, but I want to explain that we're trying to collect a Mario Star while holding the A button the entire time. We are not going to jump once. So how do we get places without jumping in a Mario game?
The bottom of the gate is a ceiling, and the game doesn't like putting Mario too close to the area right under a ceiling because it doesn't think he fits. So if we have Mario move backwards into the ceiling, the game will choose not to move him, so we're free to build up speed in place. But not infinite speed, because we'd end up breaking free if our speed moved past the gate. So what do? We turn to redirect our speed out of bounds. Notice that we now have enough speed so that our intended next position is past the wall and out of bounds. And since the game doesn't like placing Mario out of bounds, it doesn't move him, and instead just lets him stay in place, just like the ceiling. But unlike the ceiling, out of bounds goes on forever, so we can essentially build up as much speed as we want without having to worry about breaking free. So now I do just that. Open the gate, use the ceiling of the gate to build up some speed, and then redirect my angle out of bounds to build up the rest. Now, you're probably wondering what I'm going to need all this speed for. After all, I do build up speed for 12 hours, but...
Alright. This is a lot already. This is Super Mario 64, and this is Pan and Koic, a person who plays this game to such an intense detail that he knows all of the ins and outs of it in amazing ways, better than anyone possibly could and probably should, so that he can do incredible things. And his main goal, the whole reason that pushes him through this, is that he wants to see, can you beat Super Mario 64 without using the A button? And I believe the current run has gotten it down to getting every single star in the game while hitting the A button twice, 3 times in total. Holding the A button through the duration of this entire thing is a half A press. These are not things that a person could even make in a video game. They could not make the half A press a thing. But it is here because the player is fundamentally different than the video game that they are playing. The player is playing things to their own degree, to their own tune, to their own style. And so with that power, you can become arguably larger than the game itself. How much larger? Let him cook just a little longer.
But to answer
12 hours. 12 hours. This is part, bot. This is not like live play. We're going to get to talk about how bots get involved in this too. It's very cool.
We need to talk about parallel universes. And if you thought my other tangents were complicated, just you wait. Okay, so Mario's position is a floating point number, but it's converted to a short when the game uses it to test for collision with floor triangles. In other words, Mario's position can basically be any decimal number, but it's converted to an integer between negative 32,768 and positive 32,767 inclusive. So, any fractional portion is truncated, and numbers too big or too small are moved into this range using the modulo operator. Graphically, that means that the position used for floor detection is always inside of this box. So if Mario's in that box, then his actual position and the position used for floor detection are the same, albeit maybe off by a single fraction due to the truncation. But if Mario leaves that box, then his actual position and the position used for floor detection will separate, since the position used for floor detection will just loop back around to remain in the original box. So now I ask you this. Here's the course. So if Mario is standing way over here where there's no land, but the position used for floor detection is on land, can he stand over here? The answer is yes. As far as the game sees it, Mario is in fact above land over here because the game actually checks for land over here. So, for all intents and purposes, there is essentially land over here, a copy of the original map, and this is what we call a parallel universe, or a PU. And this applies to every one of these boxes, so there's actually a grid of nearly infinite PUs. Here is a to-scale diagram.
Stop. This continues. This is obviously, this keeps going. Because if you have fractionals, now you have to jump 4 PUs to get a 1-to-1 ratio. Obviously, the camera doesn't work when you're on these PUs. but if you lock the camera to your physical location, now there's not a Mario there. So you gotta kind of fudge it a little bit. You gotta play with the ROM that you're using to make it so that it renders correctly. But it is Mario. We are still playing Super Mario 64, and not even against what it was intended, but like in a way that's allowed in a stock version of SM64. The constraints that this player is putting on themselves is specifically that they could do this even if you need like an automation to do things for weeks at a time at large scale, but you could do it on a regular N64 cartridge of Super Mario 64. And so that's important. That's not always the case for any sort of play that we run into, but it could be. So walkthroughs and tutorial videos, these are play artifacts that we know. Machinima. Machinima is another good one. Give you a quick example of some fun modern machinima.
To my house. As you can see, I've knocked over many chairs because I get so tilted at the towers.
This isn't really a tilted or a tower.
Well, you see, it's a gamer pad. Not many girls come in here because I get friend zoned so frequently. But that's okay.
I'd like to be in the friend zone. I'd like friends.
It's not as pleasant as you'd think.
That's all we need. It's a very silly silly place. Snapcube's done a bunch of different dubs of games with their group, and all of them very silly, little toilet humor, very exciting. That's a version of machinima, very commonly known version where you are performing with the game by dubbing over it. Here's another form of machinima that you might not think about. This is the game Roller Coaster Tycoon, and this is the music from Wicked.
I'm through with playing by the rules of someone else's game. Too late for second guessing. Too late to go back to sleep. It's time to trust my instincts. Close my eyes and leave. It's time to try defying gravity. I think I'll try defying gravity, and you can't pull me down.
Can't I make you understand? You're having delusions of grandeur.
I could watch that. It's 8 minutes of roller coaster. How could you not watch this? This also is machinima. This also is a document of game being played for entertainment purposes. It's incredible. It's amazing. This is the power of what players can do with playing a video game. Let's talk about some of the other formal versions too. Game reviews is a very normal kind of format. And so we're going to talk about this review in particular because it is part of what we're going to talk about with when we bring up game studies, when we bring up the places that game studies comes from, and a lot of the challenges that the industry, that gamers, that everything puts onto players. This is Metroid Other M, as spoken by Morgan Webb. And the review was written by, I'm forgetting her name. Actually, I've got it in here. I know I do. This is live, pal. That script was adapted by Abby. It's Abby Hep. Where's her name? Oh, this is the Wayback Machine. Yeah, that makes sense. Where's her name? I know it's on here. Abby Hep. I was right. Yay. This is Abby Hep's wrote this review, and then it got adapted for TV for Morgan Webb to read out on the Wii video game. This is for the Nintendo Wii in 2010, Metroid Other M.
Related to her past. Samus's characterization in Other M is absolutely unacceptable, and frankly insulting to her fans in general and female fans specifically. This woman has saved the galaxy half a dozen times over, and she's standing around moping over this Adam guy in long, droning monologues that sound less like the most badass bounty hunter in known space and more like a 12-year-old girl reading her journal.
Confession time.
Don't come around if you're lost until you consider what it will cost. You pull me
You! This is one of the strongest and non-sexualized female characters in gaming, and now she's constantly showing us her ass and mooning over this utterly personality-free Adam guy. She's so submissive to him that the reason you don't have your power-ups in the beginning is not because she doesn't have her power-up abilities, but because she decides not to use them until Adam says it's okay.
Sam, I'm authorizing missile use.
Dude.
He's authorizing missile use. So yeah, Metroid Other M came out, and it was received chaotically, and it was received in a way that spun out an entire new way to understand games, because it made Realize very clear that women are not reviewing games very often. They're not playing or looking at games in the larger performed sphere, and that this was becoming a very serious problem. That games were being made in a way that it is obvious women did not work on these. And so this kind of review and the zeitgeist around Metroid Other M grew to such a fevered pitch as a first-party Nintendo game coming out during a time when the games were getting really bad because the Nintendo Wii was creative but not high quality. And so there was an outcry. And then from that outcry became another outcry that, hey, all these people with their opinions about how these games should play, those don't matter because Metroid Other M is actually a well-reviewed game. It gets high scores because the mechanics felt good to play, even though the story was incredibly infantilizing to Samus Aran, one of the most important characters in video games. As she put it, a non-sexualized female character, which is not the way Abby wrote it. It's the way that it got written to Morgan. But I think it's such a perfect encapsulation of how 2010 worked. Just how writing came out, and kind of a bold way to say it. And I just really appreciate it. This is a review that the review itself, the discourse around it, is much larger than the video game. The video game is tertiary to what people interpreted when they played the game. And so this is one of our main frictions. This is one of our first frictions is game comes out and the players don't like it, or they do like it, but in a way that's different than what the person who made the game intended. That's a major friction that makes it so that when people define how play gets done, they want to do it from the point of view of the video game itself as artifact. Very good proof of that. We're just going to look at this. This is an awesome article called Uncovering the Hidden Co-Creativity, Ethnographic Streaming for a Game Design Praxeology Research Project. Kultima Ojanen, Nyland, the Alto and Finnish crew do an awesome job of just kind of in the modern, taking the point of view of how do we, when we stream games, create together, which should be something that we talk about here, right? Because we're talking about the output, but we're talking about the output of streaming from the game design praxis. This is we've heard the word game design a couple times because Lane has been very expressive about saying that game studies needs to define their terms from a game designer's lens, which is right and fantastic, and I fully agree with, and it sets us up for failure. So let's just read just a tiny snippet of this right at the top. I think it's just this article's great, and they write it really clearly. As interactive artifacts, and often audiovisual games are hard to understand without engaging with them. You gotta play them, right? A scholarly understanding of games requires playing them one way or another. Researchers need to engage in purposeful playing of games in order to analyze them. For Espen Aarseth, the academic engagement with games can be divided into superficial play, light play, partial completion, repeated play, expert play, and innovative play. These refer to the progression. Thanks, Otero. These refer to the progression within the game and relate to the skills of the player. The progression within the game and the skills of the player at that game, at that specific game. For some scholars, such as Myers, it is the expert play that matters, as a game can only be fully understood via repetition and mastering the system. But we proved that wrong in Quest 2. Stenros has explored this facet of game studies as scholarly play, but also criticizes how the views of Myers and Aarseth are limited to only certain kinds of game experiences. This debate is connected to the implied ontology of games, how we argue that is essential for a game experience, or how we define them as processes or artifacts. One of the fascinating facets of contemporary video gaming cultures is the rise of performative play. That's live streaming. That's the fun stuff. And the consuming of others' gameplay experiences via spectating. There's Ana Fernandez Vara, which we read earlier. And spectating, that's the thing that we're doing now while I make this artifact of play that itself has artifacts of play inside of it. Complicated, right? That's why we're librarians. Sorry, just gotta scream this. This is what we do. As you can see, though, we are defining this based on the video game itself, which causes us some limitations. That means that we are wholly reliant on the game to define the play, which is very limiting. It's so limiting that I call it useless. And the number one place that you can look at that is in the word gameplay. If folks have ever gotten to see it in text, heard it spoken, gameplay, one word, is described as the stuff that happens when you play a video game. But you can get really technical with the definition. It's mostly a marketing term to say like, ooh, the gameplay feels really good, which is supposed to be code. That's like a coded message for it feels fun to play when I play it the way that it's expected to be played. That's what it means when the gameplay feels good. So it's a shorthand that is helpful. It also cuts out a lot of ways you can play a game inherently. And so I try to avoid it because there's very few times when it's actually useful. Even when we're talking about artifacts of play, I'm not going to call them gameplay because they're almost never gameplay. How many times have I showed you the game being played? Yet. Not often. Not nearly as often as everything else because play artifacts are so broad. And so this is a great example of how even when you're analyzing stuff like live streaming, analyzing stuff like Let's Plays, analyzing stuff like how people review games or the discourse around them, that when we're looking at game studies, it becomes extremely limiting to just put it in the perspective of the game designer, to give them all the power and to let the player be the exhaust, the excrement that comes out of the other side. It's just not helpful and not constructive. But it does cause this tension within the field of game studies, because if you talk about this stuff too much, it runs afoul of all of these definitions that people are trying to build to make the game studies place better. We're going to get back to that in a second, maybe in about 20, 30 minutes. But we are still only on the first part of our big wheel, right? We're still forming documents, and there's one more document that I want to look at that I think is really fun. The things that aren't the video game. What about mashups? What about remixes of video game music? That comes from the video game, but is an artifact of the play when you play with the stuff that's inside of the video game, right? This is in our purview, technically. This is Silva Gunner. If you've never heard of Silva Gunner, I'm so excited to explain to you what the hell this is. Obviously, this is the title screen music of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. That's what Silva Gunner says it is. Silva Gunner, you can see it right here. Siivagunner. Did you think that was an L? Because they want you to think it's an L also. There's a lot of knockoff Silva Gunners out there with L's or ones or multiple synonyms. Even the name is playful, is what I'm getting at, is that Siva Gunner is a remix artist that makes... It's not even a person, it's a collective of anarchist artists that make fake game music out of real game music, but transform it into something completely new. That's where I want to start. That sounded exactly like Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I gotta pull the lane here. You're wrong! You're wrong! What did you just hear? Why, that was the community theme song, of course.
Give me some more time in a dream. Give me the hope to run out of steam. Somebody say it could be here.
Oh, of course. Isn't that fun? That was what you heard, right? There's that progression. What's the other one? This one? That was the Friends theme song. No one told you life was gonna be this way. There's a whole archive of this, thousands and thousands and thousands of songs for every type of video game, and they're all put in this format. So this is a horrifying thing. If you're a librarian, you're already getting pissed off. You're like, wait a minute, they are declaring that this is the title screen for Sonic the Hedgehog 2. If I search up songs for certain games, this is what comes up. It is inserted in there to penetrate an SEO type field within the metadata. They are using this for their advantage, and they've become so well known that it actually becomes its own life. It becomes its own thing because of how this play manifests on YouTube. The ways that they play with the game audio turns into the ways that they play with YouTube itself. And so all of this, well outside of the video game itself, way outside of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. However, I argue this is a play artifact. This is something that we have to keep an eye on. Also because it's fun. It feels like it. So that's our first level. These are the documents that we're forming. These are documents that were made specifically for something. To save some part of the play in a place that can be found again later. That's really important. So when we think about what purposes each of these documents serve, quick question, just a check-in point. Do they always serve in the way that they were intended? Do videos, when someone puts out a video like this, does it output in the way they expect? Or do people then play with those documents in unforeseen ways, thus remixing it further, thus making a further play artifact? And what could those look like? What could it look like when you play with play artifacts? This is what the field should go to, right? This is, if there was a field of play studies, what does play make play into? What is play squared? All right, next level, play sharing. We've gone through so many of these, and yet there's more. Don't worry about that though. We're doing great. We're having fun. This is Northern Lion. I'm going to tell you about a Let's Player. Our first form of play sharing is we're going to talk about Let's Plays. And the concept of a Let's Play comes from one of the 4 points is the Something Awful forums. These are forums that posted video games in screenshot format that describe what is happening in the screenshot in a playful way, giving it some narrative from the player's perspective, specifically from their perspective. So they don't have to be on the script of whatever the game's telling them. They can make their own story about what the game is doing, and they can role play through it however they'd like. And so people in the forums would make these groups and role play together about how to play a game. This then turned into video Let's Plays, because those forums could then start hosting video. YouTube started getting more expressive and longer. This is a 2,350 video playlist of just the game The Binding of Isaac over the last eight years. And each one of these videos is about an hour long. It is one playthrough of The Binding of Isaac, a game that loops on itself very easily. And this man has been doing this for about 14 years, I believe. This playlist does not have all of them. There is 2,350 videos. The episodes are like 1821, 1822. These are daily videos being output by a strange Canadian who has spent his entire life doing this, and specifically around this game, The Binding of Isaac. But this isn't all of them. We don't even know where all of them are, because here's volume 2, what they dub as in their playlist as volume 2. Let's just get a little. That's not the one I wanted.
Hello,
get a
everybody.
flavor.
Welcome back to some Wrath of the Wham edition Binding of Isaac gameplay.
Hey guys, welcome to Wrath of the Lamb. This is where this whole thing comes from, right? Is we play a game, record it, put it out there. Is this a document formed for showing the game or showing the space? I would argue not. I call this play sharing because what Northern Lion is doing with this is he's blogging. He's blogging the game. What can a Let's Play be? A Let's Play can be so many things. Blogging is one of them. And so Northern Lion's had an extraordinarily successful career doing this, and I shouldn't get in the way, but we'll let him talk more later, so whatever.
Of course, we're basically just doing exactly the same thing we've been doing for the past few videos, trying to unlock the goddamn Polaroid new boss, whatever, so we're just...
Are you telling me that if people watched episode 199 and 198, that they watched him just do the same thing over and over and fail? Yes. Correct. Is that futile? No, not at all. They get to connect with Northern Lion, this person that they really enjoy hanging out with, on a daily basis through a game that they really like. And so it becomes this very communal experience, being able to host and perform a game for an audience. And so Let's Plays come in a lot of forms: text and pics, video commentary. There's also non-commentary Let's Plays, which that gets into trouble. Remember, last week during lecture, we talked about fair use and how copyright gets in the way, and the industry puts copyrights in the way of creating games. That happens here on YouTube, obviously, a lot through fair use. Games are people who play games and put them on YouTube are constantly being challenged by companies to get them off of YouTube for various reasons. And so we are always constantly fighting against copyright claims. It always happens, and it always happens to games because they are very long audiovisual experiences. And so they get flagged automatically for any various thing.
Jamming on this random button. We're gonna play as Kane this time, apparently. That's fine by me. Kane, if we're talking about the landscape... Whoa, I gotta turn my volume down a little bit here. There we go. If we're talking about the landscape of Isaac characters after Wrath of the Lamb has come out, I think Kane is basically as good as he used to be.
So a whole bunch of things just happened in a very small amount of space. Northern Lion has connected with the audience to clue them in on how this character plays based on how they used to play in a previous iteration of the game, to say it's kind of the same. That's not a huge, like, wow-wee, but it's comforting. He says, oh, the mouse, my mouse isn't in frame, the audio's too loud. These are just comforting things that you can put on in the background and listen to and hear how he, goes through all of the trials and tribulations. There's some kind of spike here. I'm scared to see what this is, but we're live, pal.
There we go. There's something I can use. If I can just get back to full health, we don't have as many problems as we did a minute ago. Okay, this is good. Very good.
Ah, okay. This is a big spike because he manages to get a bunch of health out of all of the stuff to make the run keep going. and another spike for getting to the end that he was looking for at the beginning of the level. Great, we did it. This is how Northern Lion has kind of always played games in a very communal setting. But Northern Lion also plays a lot of different games. And so let's see how his outlook on performing video games for an audience has changed now that we're in the live stream kind of scenario. Making a video that you are going to, package up and put on the YouTube in the future is very different from performing a game live. It takes a rare kind of person to transition between both. This is a game about flipping a coin, and if you get heads 10 times in a row, you win.
We get it, NL. You're refusing to buy it out of spite so you can try to get a viral TikTok clip. Shut up about it. First off, the analytics on TikTok are not that good anymore. I think that YouTube Shorts has eaten its lunch, and the sovereignty crisis of will it be banned, will it not? It's like people are just, they're on YouTube or they're on Reels, and I'm not really fucking with Reels, but I'm on YouTube already, so I post Shorts. Secondly, the game is a mirror, okay? I am showing you yourself and then observing your reaction. It's a one-way mirror. I'm looking at the Joker inside of the holding cell right now, and you're saying some shit like, oh, I hate this game. You're only playing this game to get viral clips. No, man. I'm playing this game to see what the reaction is when you observe yourself. This is like when you eat something flavorless and you suddenly realize you have bad breath. Why so angry? Why so angry? Video games are supposed to be fun. You don't like having fun playing video games? You weren't of the opinion that there was any higher-minded ideal going on, right? Like when you play Deadlock, you're not transmuting that in your brain into like chemicals that make you think you're improving yourself, right? This is all entertainment. It's all leisure. It's all one last lick of the honey before you fall down the pit of everlasting oblivion. And this is how you want to spend it. As you cling to the edge, as your fingernails get dirt underneath them. I don't get it though. You have the money and you have the button. You can just press it.
He has the money. It's $300,000. He can gain a plus 5% heads chance. This is a very simple game. Unfair flips is a beautiful thing. It's a mirror. He could buy it. Why, Northern Lion, will you not increase the odds of getting heads from 55%? I'll answer it because he says it earlier in real words. He's going to say it in different words because he's live. It's because he thinks 55% is the most fair advantage on a coin flip. That 50% doesn't feel right, but 55% is appropriate. If you can get 10 heads on a 55-45 chance, that's fair. It feels right to him.
Man, when a man chooses, a machine obeys. Maybe you'd be better off watching a machine. The rest of you, I'm happy to have you here.
Thanks, man. Still that same community feeling. Now with a face cam. This is a different way that this medium gets played out. I don't have any... I have a million thoughts on face cam versus not face cam. It changes everything about how you perform, but it still is just so much fun to do it either way. And in this case, playing a game as simple as this has managed to cross people in strange ways while he plays, while they try to tell him how to play the game, and he pushes back to say no, because now it's more fun watching you watch me than it is me playing the game, which I'm still having a great time playing. This is play sharing. Can we classify the artifact? Is this a live stream artifact? Is this a chat artifact? Who gets this one? Is it both? We could tag it both ways. What facets do we need to identify this as a play-based thing? We get to describe these things. We can if we want to. No one else on this planet can but us either, is the hard part. I've waited for 10 years to watch game studies try to manifest this, and they haven't. So I'm done waiting, and that's why we get videos like this. That's why this lecture exists, is because I'm angry. I'm so angry, I'm going to talk about books. Hey, we've talked about vlogging and streaming. So sharing, I want to, one little note, forgot about this. So sharing play, when you share play with other people, it's about making a space. How many ways have people turned the act of sharing play into other core structures in their life. Northern Lion has a child. Northern Lion has a kid who goes to school and says, my dad plays video games for a living. Not in a joke way, in a way that all of her classmates go, yeah, that's a normal thing that we understand as a career path. That's amazing. And also, all of this is like tweets. All of this is stuff that gets...
If you don't get it, you never will.
No, yeah. This stuff it falls to the weeds constantly. But you know what doesn't? Books. Books don't. I want to talk about Killing is Harmless. This is the first of a couple of things that I call close plays. To close play a game doesn't literally mean writing a book about it, but it can manifest itself in that way. And I think that is substantial. It's a really, really cool way to understand a video game. Killing is Harmless is a critical reading of Spec Ops: The Line. That still exists. Why would you say that, Darius1? On apparently Russian Steam. I don't know why my language is in Russian right now, but that's fine. Mostly aiming to point this gem of game coverage out to people. Brennan Keogh, Brennan Keogh is a doctor of game studies, does a lot of incredible work, and has written quite a few books, one of them being a close play, a critical reading of the game Spec Ops: The Line. And I brought it up in this form. I could show you the cover of the book. I could show you a lot of things. I brought you to Russian Steam for a very specific reason. The book still exists. And the game doesn't. The game Spec Ops: The Line is no longer available in Steam Store. You cannot purchase or buy this game. It is commonly pointed to as the reason why we need to preserve games, but we don't necessarily know how. One way we can is through close play. This is an option. That could be in a video format. This is a book format. I can give you another example of a more literal example of what it's like when you close play a game. And this is a close play book from the 1980s. This is, I guess, the first form of close playing, I guess you could say, called Pilgrim in the Microworld, as read by Jacob Geller.
No sensation is left unexplored.
No sensation is left unexplored. The game that is being close played in Pilgrim in the Microworld is Breakout, the game that is in the background. Breakout, you break the blocks. And then when you've broken all the blocks, more blocks show up, and the ball moves faster. That's the whole game. And a musician, a classically trained musician, got so into this game they had to write a book about it called, very appropriately, Pilgrim in the Microworld, because he was coming at it from the approach of someone who's never played any other games. We've all been here. We know what this, I know what this feeling is like, right? Very viscerally, when you are like playing a game and you don't have words for it, so you need to make words for it.
For instance, he's playing with the paddle controller for the Atari 2600, a sort of dial that you can turn left and right to control the thing on screen. I describe that in 16 words. Sudnow is not so casual. Line up your extended finger with the lower left corner of the TV screen a comfortable 6 feet away. Now track back and forth several times in line the bottom border and project a movement of that breadth onto an imagined 1.5-inch diameter spool in your hands. That's how knob and paddle are geared, a natural correspondence of scale between the body's motions, the equipment, and the environs presented in the interface. There's that world space over there, this one over here, and we traverse the wired gap with motions that make us nonetheless feel in a balanced, extending touch with things. These 100 words are not Sudnow's description of using a controller. These are the first 100 of thousands of words describing using a controller. Nothing is taken for granted, no hand position, no twist of the dial, no rhythm or momentum forgotten about. And my god, if you think Sudnow is comprehensive on the controller, wait until you read the dozens of pages about how he should look at.
There's so many words that my bitrate is falling apart. I love that. That's how you know it's really good. But yeah, Pilgrim in the Microworld. a book written by a musician. And you can tell it's written by a musician because the way that he writes the words feel like he is approaching an instrument. He's approaching an instrument of play, not as we would conventionally call a video game. And there's no right way for a player to approach a video game. We know that because we stopped holding the controller. We're doing cheese grip now. We're cheese grip gang. We're all cheese grip. So we got to write a couple thousand words about what we're doing here. There's no right way. Once the game has been printed onto some kind of digital form and put into the player's hand, the player is the one in control. And no one can tell them otherwise. Once you have tried to, you have failed. It is folly in that direction. And so these kinds of close plays are all valid. And they come in so many different formats. However, this is a 2010, 2012 book, I think. This is 1980s. People don't really make this. This is not a thing that is sought after. You have to, there's no market for this, right? This is, I want to show you, this is so cool. This is a close play of the game Far Cry 2 by, this is Ben Abraham, right? Yeah, Ben Abraham. It's called Permanent Death. I'll show you it in the big letters. Permanent Death! A video game novelization played, written, and produced by Ben Abraham. A little hoity-toity there, but very appropriate. Here's a forward by the designer of Far Cry 2, actually put a forward together for it. It's made up of chapters. It has interstitials. It has a postscript thanking the folks. Death is permanent, and in all works of fiction predetermined, except in video games, where most of the time it is neither. Duncan Fife. The game that he is playing is Far Cry 2. The mode that this is written in, the rules, normal difficulty. When I die, that's it. Game over. And so it's gorgeously typeset, very meticulously built, frame by frame, photograph by photograph throughout this game. And while we're reading stuff, let me just give you a snippet. Warren Clyde was my savior. He charged in, Desert Eagle and AK-47 blazing. He must have known I was going to pull something stupid, as he was obviously hanging around nearby. I'll bet he came running as soon as the shooting started. How else can I explain away the almost divine timing that saw him turn up right at that very moment? A second later, and it would have been lights out for Kurbani Singh. That's our main character. Talking to him later in the safe house, I barely remembered the rest of the journey. Apparently he picked me up, dragged me out in the middle of Pala by himself, and put me back on my feet at the jetty on the northwestern side of town. He even covered my retreat as I got in a boat and puttered downstream to a collapse on the camp bed of the nearest safe house. When I asked him about it, he simply gave me a thumbs up and said, "Don't mention it, man." But then I told him bad news. My malaria condition was getting worse, and I was all out of pills. I needed to see the priest back in town and get him to fix me up. I won't soon forget the look Warren gave me as I walked out the door. He wanted to say something, but he held his tongue. Perhaps that itself took more bravery. The priest was actually out of pills again, but we knew of a family that had some and sent me to courier them some fake passports so they could skip the country. That was fine by me as far as I'm concerned. The less civilians around, the better. I started a fire outside the house the civvies were hiding in to flush out the nearby troops. Looked like I arrived just in time, too. All right, so this is the game as it plays out. Managing your malaria condition is a core mechanic of the game. You have to take pills to ward it off. That's just how it goes. So at any point, he could just die of malaria inside of this. Lots of explosions, lots of bodies. This interstitial is just called the evolution of an explosion. And it's just a couple of frames of an explosion, but like the weight that they carry, getting to see them in sequence like this, where you get to stop and wait and just take space for a second, is extraordinary. There's not anything else like this. If you are a longtime gamer who's played tons and tons of games, you probably have not seen anything like this before. Maybe if you have, please let me know, because I couldn't tell you anything else that's even close to this. Ran over a zebra. It's a very violent game. Anyway, I'm going to spoil the ending. Where's the ending? There's Xevi. There's the stats so far. our weapon of choice was flare gun for all of this. It became a important side piece of the whole thing. Oh. Yeah. All right. So, awaking in the pre-dawn, I prepared to go retrieve some diamonds. This is a very normal thing that happens in the game. You just get put on a quest to go retrieve diamonds. Except he waves to me as I approach. I'm not entirely sure what he's doing here. The last I saw, he was languishing in an open jail cell, a jail cell I left open for him. I barely have time to parse the situation before Michelle steps out from behind the crashed chopper. She is instantly hostile in attitude, mentioning something about having made a deal and that I wasn't part of it. A gun appears in her hands, and I don't hesitate. I unload a number of rounds into Michelle as a number of my other former buddies appear out of nowhere. I barely register as she staggers and falls down, and I turn to shoot Asebi, who doesn't seem to have decided whether he wants to be part of this traitorous act or not. I'm interrupted, however, by the painful sensation of multiple pellets tearing into my right side. I spin around and beat a hasty retreat, injecting myself with a Surette. That's the healing thing in the game as you go. I find meager cover behind a small log, but I'm quickly outflanked and forced to try to move again. Someone I've never met is on my left firing quick, dangerous bursts, and to my right, Warren Clyde. A shot, or several in a row, is heard. Part of me detaches from the present, and Kurbani Singh slips away from this life into the next. Killed by stupid, goofy, smiling Warren Clyde! This is a problem, right? We have made this book in permadeath. And yet, Kurbani Singh woke up in the safe house and stopped being Kurbani Singh. He became Ben Abraham, blogger, writer, self-appointed video game critic, and Far Cry 2 player extraordinaire. Kurbani Singh had recently died. This was permanent death. The story you are reading now, what you have just finished reading, was permanent death. But the game wasn't finished yet, and neither was Kurbani/Ben, which is how this character is referred to for the rest of the book. It is now Kurbani Ben. Kurbani Singh woke up in a safe house and became also Ben Abraham. He was aware of what had become before, and he knew what was about to come again. He was not afraid of death, for it had lost its importance to him. It had lost its control. He embraced the impermanence of being video game. He became large. He contained multitudes. He embraced the accumulated knowledge that came from previous experiences, many games, many names, all in the one player. World became game, and Kurbani became us. I won't spoil the ending's ending, but this is transformative. This is amazing stuff. This is the stuff that you write stories about. And speaking of, let's get one more story in here, just because it's Far Cry 2. The designer who wrote the foreword also wanted to note that this is his favorite clip of the game that he made. Now you can see it in motion, how it looks. Very different from how it looked in the screenshots, but still not any less impactful or empowering. Just different. Now your hands are embodied, right? It feels kind of disconnected in an artificial way, but that's important. Especially when you're about to, like, do murders.
This music and this moment. No! No, you son of a bitch! Fuck! Christ! Fucking God! No! Oh, that was the worst. I shot the wrong guy. The guy just jumped in front of the bullet. It was just...
It was just the Clint Eastwood movie where he goes, yeah, he jumps in front, and then the guy gets shot. Oh.
It's important to see not only the setup, how things go horribly wrong, that something glitches out right as he does the shot, and it makes the whole... He's trying to shoot a driver, he's not trying to shoot a passenger, and then everyone alerts, and the chaos that he's trying to set up fails and blows up in his face. And so he also explains that very quickly and eloquently in a metaphor, an allusion to film. Like that's beautiful stuff. That's so fun and funny and strange. But these are the stories that we tell when we play games, right? And so Idle Thumbs does just a great job of putting that together in such a short clip, just because, hey, the camera's on, hey, I got the guitar in my hands, hey, let's just see what happens. This is almost candid, but the play has been captured intentionally to share. So it's kind of a little borderline of a situation here. Speaking of borderline situations, here's the Game Theorists. This is a group you might know, Matthew Pathieu, puts this little show together where he makes up stories. And these stories are labeled as science. They are labeled as some kind of sacrosanct truth about the game or the world in the game, but they are entirely folktale. They're partially made up, partially true, and they work to tell you a really exciting and entertaining story that is kind of related to a game. And so where does this land on our little spectrum of document forming and play sharing? It's obviously a document that's been formed. There's not much play that is being shared. However, all of this is so disconnected from the game. It is sharing folklore about a game. And the folklore that comes from this. So this is obviously a document, but what it's building off of, in this case, Raticate's death, which is not a death. It is just in the first fight of Pokemon Red and Blue against your rival, they have a Rattata. In the second fight, they have a Raticate. And you're like, oh, the Rattata evolved into Raticate. Great. And then in the next fight, Raticate's gone. And so everyone's like, oh, he killed his Raticate because it wasn't very good. This is folktale. And they take the folktale and they stretch it to its like logical, not even to a logical conclusion. They stretch it though. They stretch it as far as they can. And so like that type of folktale sharing, that's a artifact of play. That doesn't come from the game. It kind of does. It's inspired by it, but it definitely comes from the play of the game. And so that's complicated, right? Here's one. Let's go farther than folktale. What about cosplay? What about cosplay? Here's a video game being cosplayed. This is AEW Women's Champion Hikaru Shida, and Hikaru Shida has just won first place in a costume contest where she is cosplaying as Ichiban Kasuga from the game Yakuza, and Sega has captured this moment for everyone's enjoyment. And she sings the whole song. We'll get into it. But a little bit more than that. She knows the Haruka dance. She knows the whole thing. I don't know Yakuza 5's Haruka dance. I don't. It's an expression of play that is inspired by this video game. It's been extrapolated so far, but this is, I would argue, a document of play from a video game. And so, cosplay. Cosplay is such a strong expression of play. It's got play in the name. We got to include it, right? And so, I just think that's super important. So these are applications, but what about the capture of it? Because there's all these moments where you capture raw footage. How do you do that? Why do you do that? What cases get brought up where you start to do that? Let's start with the raw inputs of play. I guess this will work. So this is a very cool and very big thing, very complex, and I'm gonna try to not explain it. It'll show itself very well. But we're gonna go back to Tetris. You remember how we talked about at the beginning of this? There's so many ways you can play Tetris. There's also so many ways you can program a bot to play Tetris.
Super fast menuing. So the first thing you're going to see TaskBot do here is stack blocks all the way up to the top. It's going to take the...
You remember that we play Tetris like this, right? This is the normal way. There's a little bot that is putting instructions into the game. That is an artifact of play. That is, I argue, not just an artifact of play, but that is the literal raw capture of play instructions. And for this purpose, it is for a performative purpose. Watch what happens because of having all of the inputs rapidly put in and programmed in specifically by people.
Blocks falling down, less time to reach the stack, obviously, and so these Tetrises can be completed faster. Now, you might notice that they're using these L pieces, and when they do that, it actually sort of, because of the wraparound, it's taking one off the bottom, so they are getting credit for 4 lines or a Tetris just by using those L pieces, and some of the RNG here is being manipulated through pause buffering. The RNG in NES Tetris is notoriously really tough to deal with, and so they can kind of get around that by pause buffering a little bit. But normally you shouldn't be able to get pieces to the extreme left or right side like this very quickly, but there's a technique called hyper tapping, which is to tap out each individual input to move for each sequential row. And if you look at the controller that TaskBot is lighting up there,
made by Micro 500, we call this a visualization board.
You'll see that the light for the controller is pulsing really quickly. So just imagine an RTA player actually physically pressing all of those, and that's kind of why this is impossible. So the aim here obviously is to just get all Tetrises, which would be optimal speed. You want... I love it. You know, I've spent years trying to get this score, and TaskBot's going to do it.
This is a TaskBot, is what it's called. This is we are at Games Done Quick, which is a charity event that raises millions of dollars for Doctors Without Borders and other cancer-based fundraising efforts. And this is a thing that they put on often where they just showcase the automated play of a game for performative reasons. Inside of this showcase, they're usually showcasing people playing games as fast as possible, a speed run. And when games are speed ran, you have to look at the game as a different kind of object, as code that you can exploit to show more interesting ways to engage with the game than you'd normally expect. And so sometimes that means using glitches or using rapid inputs that wouldn't normally be a casual way to play the game to get some kind of optimal result. In this case, this is the opposite of optimal. And yet we are showing that there is a glitch that it overflows if you get a line up here, it takes from the line down there. And we heard about hyper tapping. We heard about all the things that we heard about at the beginning of this video. This was 2019. Remember that the first video we saw was 2020. Hyper tapping was supposed to be just a thing that bots could do. But this is where it comes from. The science that happened here for fun and for show ends up being now just how people normally play it, which is wild. We get a lot of stories inside of speedrunning that say, that talk about how we have surpassed the human ability. Like there's, all right, here's the fastest you can possibly play this game at a human level. Oops. We got faster than that because we learned some new techniques that make the game actually faster than we thought was previously possible, and you can now play it faster than a human. This is not complex, on its outset, but as far as capturing an artifact of play, it's extremely complicated. These are people who are spending hours, hundreds of hours, building play repositories just to do this, just to show this off for 16 minutes, for 10, just to show what you can do for like 10, 15 minutes. But People made these, and when you make them, that is an artifact to play.
And the Mode 9 was also made by Baxter. These are...
It's just fascinating to be able to see how these things work. And so they're structurally kind of like Let's Plays, but the context is different. And because the context is different, it changes how it feels as the player. People will wear heartbeat monitors while they do speed runs to show people who are watching on screen, without the player having to say anything, how they're feeling. Like, oh, my heart rate is really spiking because I know I'm getting close to a world record. That's a thing that biometrics were used for a poetic reason to express play. Right? That's crazy. That's not crazy. You know what's crazy? What if a dog played video games? Woof woof. This is the same, this is not the same year, but this is last year's. This is 2024's Summer Games Done Quick, so a year and a half ago. And this is Peanut Butter the dog playing Ken Griffey Jr. Presents MLB. Unfortunately, they're in the bottom of the 12th inning because the game is tied 3-3 between the Minnesota Twins and the Seattle Mariners at the Kingdom.
Ready?
God, can you believe the game for the Super Nintendo is not cooperating?
Of all the systems.
I know.
Watch me. Ready? Watch me. And button. Sit. Good boy.
All right.
It's okay. You want some cheese?
Oh.
Watch me. Here we go, buddy.
All right,
Watch me.
2 outs to go.
Some aggressive
This
licks.
is fine.
Button. It's okay. Good boy. Ready?
My abs are tight. I am so into this game right now. You cannot believe this.
Ready?
It's so good.
Sit. There's a hit.
There we go. All right.
All right, bud.
Button.
Ready?
Yes. Good
What
boy.
a
Sit.
good
Good
boy.
boy.
We're going to get that double.
Yes.
Let's
good
put it
boy.
there. Yeah.
All right.
All right, PB, a base it. We win. You ready? It's Griffey.
Come
Here
on,
we go.
bud. You got
Top
this.
of the lineup. Excellent
That's
chance
out.
to take it
That's
up.
out.
Go.
That's out.
Go. Yeah.
Good boy.
You did it.
Yo.
Walk off home run. Oh, my God.
What a good boy. Oh, he's taking
That is time. I almost forgot to say it.
Amazing,
Can you
amazing.
believe it?
Oh.
They said a dog couldn't do it, but he's proved everybody wrong.
How foolish we were.
Minnesota, you've seen the best thing you'll ever see in your life. Make some noise.
Amazing job by PB. Oh, what a good boy.
He's such a good boy. So yeah, speedrunners can mean anything. This is way beyond whatever the game was. You saw in there that not only did Peanut Butter hit the button to hit the ball, but also was doing all the pitching, and hit the button to take second base, a strategic move. He's being told to do these things. Peanut Butter is being instructed. However, Peanut Butter is the gamer here. And we have to deal with that. That's part of our job when we are capturing play is, hey, what about when the dog plays the video game, huh? These are some of the most incredible moments that have happened in games. I want to take it back the opposite way. What about the least impactful? Because when we're talking about just the capture of play, we're not just talking about speedrunning. We're not just talking about the edges of what speedrunning can be. But all of these things come from thousands of hours of playing games and often capturing those games. And so here's just an example. This is my friend Keelala. She was live a couple hours ago, and then I took a long time to make this, so I didn't get to catch her live. She's raiding. She's playing Final Fantasy XIV online and doing a raid with her raid group. She is not chatting with chat. There's no chat to chat with here. But she is hosting this because is a part of her community. If they clear this raid, they will want proof. They will want documented evidence. So this itself is not the document unless they succeed. And wouldn't you know it, they don't. See, they just got hit with a raid wide. No, it looked like they got... Key was out of position. Sorry to put her on blast like that. But they're learning this is also part of them learning this fight. So they're hoping for the best. That's why the stream is on. But they're also expecting, hey, it might not be tonight. And if it is, we're ready.
Starting at 1. 1, 2, 3.
Got the revive. They're going to try to keep playing through it. They got to separate at the right time to make sure that nobody gets killed. Never got killed. They were all too close together. They couldn't adjust after all of the deaths. Happens all the time in FF14. Happens all the time. Is this the end? They'll try to bring it back, but they won't. This video unfortunately ends with a party member going, I gotta go to bed, and then the stream ends shortly afterwards. They do a couple runs with another fill-in that they brought in, but this is just raw gameplay footage. Where does this go? Nowhere. This goes in the trash. Which is great, that's ideal. We're librarians. We love when things go in the trash. That's very appropriate and very important. It's a glut of content, right? Well, a lot of people agree, including Twitch, who just last year made me have to work many weeks overtime because I guess I could just show you from here. Yeah, let me show you my creator dashboard. I stream regularly on this platform. I want the video producer role. They limited how much video you're allowed to store down to 100 hours. And unfortunately, in live streaming, 100 hours is about 20 VODs. And so you can only keep about 20 streams worth of stuff. You cannot keep a library of stuff. They stopped that. A bunch of folks had libraries full of stuff where they kept all of their videos and VODs. And those VODs end up getting linked to places like speedrun.org to show like, hey, this is a speedrun of this thing. Oh, here's some muted video. Oh man, let's appeal muted video real quick. Appeal reason. This is fair use. This is fair use. This is fair use. It's the song Invisible by Duran Duran that I used as the very beginning. Legal, let's dox ourselves. That's a great idea, Solon. Let's do that. Let's not do that. So let's move on. I love the idea of how many times have I doxed myself on the internet? Like 5, I think. That'll be 6. That'll be 6. Where are we at? I've lost my place on my tabs. So the concept is here that this is candid capture, right? This is just the raw capture of play. It's very easy on Twitch to you just put in their legal form and then boom, you're done. It's and they let you have your video and it's fine because fair use. It's always fair use. So we could get into that too. Other weird edge case. Hey, people also play video games, and sometimes those video games don't have any what a game designer would call interaction. Sometimes they're kinetic novels, and they are played through in this type of format. This is The House in Fata Morgana. Technically, it's the best game ever. That's what the game ratings say. And it is awesome. It's an incredible story, beautifully told, just a lot of cool Gothic Victorian feeling. And this video is the Vita version of the game on autoplay. The player is not interacting with this in any way whatsoever, just capturing the footage. This is just video record functionality, and the only part that the player has added any kind of context to is how they have named it, how they have categorized it and tagged it, how they have described it, and their own stuff, including a link to their Play Asia version so that they can get some kickbacks. That's the business, baby. But this is just the game. And this becomes an issue with visual novel creators where they say these players are substituting wholly the game with their play. I've tried as best I can to give you a whole lot of reasons why that's really not true. But it is still, that's the biggest challenge. This is the one edge case that is louder than all of the others and has always driven all of the parts of what is legal and what is illegal around Let's Playing. And the things that have been illegal in the past, playing a new game playing the recording and uploading the first chapter of a new game. Persona 5, when it released, said, oh, you cannot, you can only stream the first 13 hours of the game, and if you get to this point, you can't stream it anymore. That held up for 0 weeks, and actually less than. That rule held up for -3 days because people had already leaked the game, and the playthroughs were already coming out. So, there's always been this push and pull between the industry and players of the game that are performing the game for various reasons. And so this manifests in a bunch of ways. Music is usually the number one way that this comes up, is that if a games company like Nintendo can't tell you how to play the game or tell you to not play the game, they can tell you to not play their music. And so they'll kind of litigate through YouTube's automated functionality to say, hey, this video has this music in it, cut it, that's our music. It's a little skeezy, it's a little sideways. But the bottom line is that while this may supplant for a portion of folks, I can tell you I can show you the videos. I've done a lot of Let's Plays of a lot of visual novels, and it is not at all a replacement for actually playing the game yourself. It's not even close. Because this autoplay reads way too fast. This autoplay reads way too slow. This autoplay does not work just right for most people. And so it is very rare to have someone supplant the entire playing of a game with a Let's Play. Except for in the very common case that they weren't going to play it anyways. And so because you only have so much time to play a game, and you only have so much money to buy new games with, it actually really helps to see someone else play a video game and go, oh, I don't need to buy that. Oh, I can make an informed decision from this. But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that you've lost a purchase. So it's the ball keeps moving back and forth in this court because of this. And that's why businesses have a very purposeful reason to want to make sure that play is in the game developer's court and not in the player's court. Because the players, they make things weird. They do things strange. You can't control them. This also gets in the way of game designers. Game designers do like that control and respect it. And so we're going to see a couple ways where designing video games can also be a form of play. But let's talk about in a different version of game design. My next thing up on my list was achievements. Achievements are this is the thing that happens when you play a game and you get an achievement. That's data. You just output data. And these are retro achievements. So these are fan-made achievements by designers whose job it is to design achievements for games. Making achievements for old games that never had achievements. So Super Mario World did not come out before the concept of achievements was made. So they made some fun ones. Collect a P-balloon. Here's another kind of flying. Hijack a Locky 2's cloud. We're floating through the clouds. 22% of gamers have gotten this. 20,000 out of the 88,000 who have started polling on usually on emulators, because Retro Achievements is integrated in most emulators at this point, have done this. And so Retro Achievements is an extremely potent, powerful way to extend and transform a video game past what it was originally created to be. But even still, it just proves the point that achievements do transform your game. They change your game. And for many reasons, this is complicated. This is probably the biggest, achievements are one of the biggest tension points that alienates game developers from the player, which is weird. Let's talk about how you can transform your entire play through achievements. If you change the achievements, you change the rules. If you change the rules, you change the game. This is a subset called the Professor Oak Challenge. And the Professor Oak Challenge is always the one that I point to. I think it's very fun. This is an achievement for catching every single Pokemon. Obtain Metapod, obtain Butterfree, obtain Beedrill. This is the full Pokemon Red and Blue Pokedex. Pikachu, Nidoran, Nidoran female, male, Nidorino. Obtain the Boulder Badge from Brock with all 21 possible Pokemon. That's badge 1. This is not just collect every Pokemon to get your Professor Oak badge. This is collect every Pokemon as soon as the game will let you. As soon as it is possible by any means whatsoever to collect that Pokemon, you get them. And so this changes how you play the game into asking questions like, oh, now that I've gotten Misty's badge, what Pokemon can I get? Oh, I can get Raichu now that I've got Misty's badge because I can now get an Electric Stone to evolve my Pikachu. I did not have that before. I could not obtain Raichu. We keep going. There's ones that are like from trades. There's ones from finding Moonstones places, but there's only so many Moonstones in the game at certain points. Badge number 4, you now have 121 of the 151 Pokemon in the game. By the time you have your 4th badge, you have all of them. The only one that you can get after Erica is just Articuno, because that's an event Pokemon in a certain spot. And then after you get Articuno, you can now get Thunder Badge, Marsh Badge, Volcano Badge, Earth Badge. You can just knock all of these guys out because you don't have any more needs. Obtain Moltres. That's another event Pokemon that opens up once you've beaten Giovanni. Defeat the Elite Four with all 123 possible Pokemon obtained. Now that's not 150. And that's because you can only get certain Pokemon at certain times. You have to make choices. It has those put in there, whether you choose which fossil you choose to pick, who you evolve with the Moonstone. And then, was it worth it? The big ending, all 123. You get Mewtwo at the very end in Cerulean Cave, I think. And so this is a completely new and radical way to understand the game Pokemon Red and Blue. This changes how you play it fundamentally, and makes it into a very different type of game. That's the Professor Oak Challenge. And so this is also an artifact of play. This too, this list of rules, of text, of things that someone has coded in lovingly and carefully into the game. Achievements are one of the core units that players have at their disposal to control their games, to track their games. Here's completionist.me, which is a website that you can use to track every Steam achievement and every retro achievement that you've started, if you've finished them, if you've perfected them, how many games you have, how many friends you have, in case you need to know that. This is, fundamentally like a super important thing to players. They don't hoard these things out of like greed or anything, but it's because it's their way of interacting with games. It connects them they want to connect to the game at the deepest possible value. And they've decided that achievements are a deep way of understanding and connecting to a video game and to the people who create it. They want to touch God, the person who created this game, and they want to do that through achievements. And game developers don't really like this, because it is seen as superficial. It is seen as, that's not really the game I made. That's just a task list that I added to the game. Here's Keanu Rabun, director, founder of, I don't know, they did Marvel's Avengers and Lordbound. I don't really know Keanu, but there's a great tweet from them. I think it just really hits the point home really well. Mandatory platform-dictated achievement systems are bad. See, platform-dictated, this is because when you make achievements for Sony, for Microsoft, for a console release, you have to put it through their certifications, which is good because game developers do love making achievements that crash the game because it's funny. It's epic. It's really good. It happens every once in a while where they go, Sony wouldn't let us crash the console, because they're not going to let you do that. But also, they do dictate the achievements in a lot of ways to make it so that you can't really express yourself the way you want to. You can only do it the way they want you to, and this is seen as limiting, because it is costing industries millions of euros, and we should just toss it in the bin as a 2000s experiment. Here's an indie game I made about my dog dying. Ding dong, you got a trophy. Cried a little at the vet. Sunk cost fallacy. Just agree to stay in for 16 years. Why are we still doing this? It's complicated. And it's because this is the only achievements are one of the only game artifacts that players receive and can manage on their own, because it's such a simple data point that they can hold it as an artifact that they completed a video game to the highest level they can. That's so important. Here's game developer Ivy Slim. Ivy Slim? What? Ivy Sly. For the record, I develop games for people who play games to have fun. A little sassy, very fun. Can you add achievements? Huh? Probably not. You should consider it. A lot of people only play games for the achievements. I bet you would get a big uptick in players if you did. Thanks, cheeky little sausage. So, this is the most common interaction and why there's so much tension between the people who make games and the people who play them over achievements, which is silly and annoying, but also really important, because it is the part of the game where the game developer does have control, and that's not enough for the player. The game developer is not allowed the choice to opt out of achievements. It is seen as lacking. They say, oh, well, people won't play your game if it doesn't have achievements, which is not true. Go play Evil Egg. It is very awesome, and it's very bright and colorful. Whew! I'll just, I would love to play the audio. The audio is gorgeous, too. This is my favorite kind of top-down arcade game. I love Robotron so much. So, yeah, anyway. Evil Egg. Can you add achievements? Yes, so this is the main tension, right? We're here because this is a strong tension between players and the people who make the games. Undertale achievements. We're coming to the end of this, don't worry. Where is it? It's probably just images, right? Yeah. Don't worry, I have a lot of ideas for trophies. Get an item. Like getting items, get 2 items. Or getting more items, get 3 items. And then, help, I'm out of ideas. Why does this exist? Why did this happen? Because Sony forced them to make achievements. If you're a game developer, you have to make achievements when you're getting put onto a platform. Now, since I'm just going to say it just because it's the right thing to do. Game developers need to make achievements for their games. It is so important because it is the best way for a game designer to talk directly to a player. Without all of the cruft of game stuff getting in the way, players want to connect to game developers and designers. They want to know how this magical thing of a video game got created, who's in charge of it, and if they can't trust the achievements, they can't trust the designer. That's a big statement to make, but it's true. And if the designer doesn't like this concept, doesn't like this interaction, doesn't want to be known, doesn't want to be connected to, which is so valid, they often don't get a choice and are forced to get connected to the people that they like the least, people who only play the game to collect achievements. They play for the artifact that they can control. And they aren't going to get into the, all this stuff that I worked so hard. I've spent thousands of hours making music and video and making the game play in a way that feels really good and makes you want to keep playing it, makes you like it, makes you like me. But you don't like me for me, you just like me for my achievements. These don't have to conflict, but they do. And the ways that they do are really hone in on the worst parts of video games, all in one spot, all in the spot that harkens back to Metroid Other M. Once again, this is people playing a game and other people being like, don't play this game for stupid reasons. Don't play this game just to get the achievements. Don't play this game, play it and get something out of it. And so this is a problem. This comes up in a way that gets in each other's way. All right, so that is all of my examples of document forming, play sharing, and play capture. Those are the achievements, game completion trackers. Sorry, play capture, the hardware. We got to talk about hardware, right? So every computer now can capture gameplay footage. Every console now can capture gameplay footage. This is a thing that is cooked into every single one of these almost across the board, short of things that are emulating like older game systems. Maybe don't have them, but often do now. So there's shadow play and console capture. And then there's, hey, you want to see yourself? You want to say hi? Hey, that's us. This is OBS. This is the engine that is running the video that we're watching currently. And so I could wiggle it a little like this and do a little dance. And if I do that too much, it'll make something else happen, I'm sure, on Windows. But this is the interface that I do all of my stuff with. And so here's the chat room for when I go live. These are all the interaction points that I've developed and designed to make my live stream fun. And all of these inputs, various inputs, combine to make my live stream. Here's the stream information. Here's all the activity. I guess I got a follow 4 days ago. That's fun. Here's my bridge to my extensions. All of that is, I need this entire tank to capture gameplay. This is the video feed here. I can even, this might make the screen go black for a second. No, that's me. I went black for a second. Bye. Goodbye. There we go. This right here is my desktop display, but it's also my capture card. I'm feeding my capture card into a display so that if I change consoles to something else that I want to capture, it will feed right into this. It'll feed right into my system. So I've developed my entire like base that I do my schoolwork from. If anyone's ever shared an online class with me, they've seen me in other webcam formats. I'm doing that out of OBS because I'm ready to capture various gameplay at any time, even if it comes from a different setup, and output it via live stream. And so I just wanted to share a little bit of that behind the scenes, that being a games player and a games performer does come with a bunch of cool, fun little hoops that when you get them to sing in parallel together, it makes magic happen. And so it's really important. This is where the cutting edge of this field is currently, because we've only had this ability for a very short amount of time. The capture of play has now become a primary function of all game playing platforms. So, question for this part of the video: what ways could this change how play is shared? If you can just have something happen, and then whenever you use shadow play or when you use a console's capture ability, you can grab the last minute, the last 5 minutes, the last 15 minutes, and then scrub and edit from there to your heart's desire. Not to your heart's desire. There's other limitations on it currently, but the goal is that even if something's happening, you suddenly go, oh, I should capture that. You can. That's very new. And so, what ways could this change how play is shared? And then what ways does this change how games are made when players always have a button that can let them capture and then immediately share clips? Because if I was an indie developer and I was making maybe a game that's polarizing, maybe a game that's not what the mainstream would like, and I put it out, and now immediately, minutes, maybe even hour after I have released this game, I'm already getting clips back to me that say my game sucks, or I'm getting clips back to me that say, is this how this is supposed to work? And I go, oh, no, yes, maybe. Like, that's different. That's a different way to look at how games get made. And it all comes from, once again, this has been an echo through so many of these things, that the way players play games inform the ways games get made, and the ways games get made inform the ways players play games. But it's not one-to-one, and it's very disparate how those things talk to each other. And so that's why it's really important to identify how you prioritize the play of a game compared to the game itself as artifact. And we as librarians get to kind of play in both fields at the same time. And so that's why I'm here. That's why I came to be a librarian, is because I could not get that in game studies. I couldn't get anything close to that. So let's go back to the slides. Let's learn some things. I've shown you so much. I feel like it's been just like a fire hose of so many ways to understand what a game can be played. A dog played a game a minute ago. That was cool. Let's put the circle away and let's go from the top. There we go. Why did you get up there? Come back down. How do we collect and apply play-based artifacts? This is our first question. Well, the application part, that's the easy part, right? Application is simple. You get the artifact and you go, wow, what an artifact. And you share that out. That's a meme, right? Cultural transmission, the celebration of fandom. That was all of the things that we've seen. It is very easy to say, all right, that is an artifact to play. I've got it. You can also use it as preservation. We've talked about this a little bit during the course, but there has been many opportunities where the video of the game that is being played can be more valuable and more useful to the preservation of that game than the game itself, especially if the game is only reachable on a very hard to reach console, something very obscure. You don't have the hardware for it. So a video will suffice. And for many games researchers, we know this. Like this is, we rely on Let's Plays. We rely on long play videos to understand games. Even though we aren't playing it with our hands, we still get to see it, right? Reproduction. This one's very rare, but we have seen examples where videos of a game being played, the play of it has been used to reproduce the game wholesale. That's complicated. That's a big leap, but it's been necessary at times. I think it was Sonic, old Sega game that never came out, but the beta, because it was like an Australian development team, the beta itself got leaked, but they didn't have like the game. They only had screenshots of photos of the game and like a beta video of it in action. And a game developer took that and said, I will make this Sonic game real from these pieces, and did their best. I think that might be the story for the designer of Sonic Mania. I may be wrong, but it was something that came up in my research last year. I could not find it before recording this. And marketing metrics. This is when we talk about achievements, achievement design, especially for platforms like Sony and Microsoft. Those achievements are mostly a very surface level of metrics to see, hey, how far have you gotten in the game? And we found, because of these achievements, that players are actually getting better at completing a game, because when achievements first came out, they showed us, oh, for 30% of people completing your game is very good. That's a good sign. And thank goodness, Baldur's Gate 3 and Elden Ring and Expedition 33 are all games that have started to prove that, okay, achievements are really working now because people are finishing the games. They are finding ways in their life to go from the beginning of a game experience to the end without getting stuck, without stopping. And so this is an important sea change for the relationship between game developers and game players. There's also the other metric side of achievements, which is what game designers use it for, which is also very surface level, to make sure you've gone into the menus. They'll put an achievement in there to say, use magic. Hey, have you tried using magic? Go check the menu. Achievements for, certain types of play to make sure that, all right, the player has explored all of the ways that you can play our game. That's marketing. That's metrics. That is a part of how we can apply play-based artifacts for the good of all folks. And it happens. It's a common thing that occurs. Next step. That's how we apply them. Collection, though? Collecting play-based artifacts. Oh boy. So there's not like a web repository for games. You saw the tabs. The reason that I made all of these tabs, that we did not put this into like a slideshow where it's all nice and clean. No, the grid is here to show you this used every single social media. Like I didn't use Instagram, I guess. There's so much games information that I have shown you that spreads out over 20 different sites at least that I just showed you tonight. There's not a video game play database. The very first video I showed you, Evo Moment 37, again, that's only exists because Evo saved it. And they only did it because it's a meme and because it's really important to the games culture. Not because it's important to the games culture, because they could make a little money off it. But that's good, right? That's at least something. There's not like a database for moments of play. There's not a database for 360 no scopes. There's not a database for people holding memes up at concerts. And that's, that's a start. Maybe there could be something, but how would you even build that? Especially if you try to use sources like YouTube or Twitch as your source of a play moment. Those VODs, those videos, the video on demands, those get destroyed. That's what when I showed you that 100-hour limit, that's a hard limit, and it doesn't go far. That's 20 streams. Okay, that's less than a month of production for a casual live streamer. Just a regular, everyday Joe live streamer. There's tens of thousands of us. 100 hours, that's kind of kid stuff. Like, that's fine. I've not streamed 100 hours. I've streamed, the most was 72. That was the most. I did a 40-hour stream 3 weeks ago. And so, no, that was before the quarter started. So that's 3 months ago. That 40-hour stream, that's most of my volume in a single stream. And so if I made any more VODs, then Twitch would start deleting stuff. And so speedrun streams are usually 6-7 hours, and you're cutting off what, a 15-minute portion, a 30-minute portion, a 5-minute portion of that 6-7 hours of grinding. YouTube videos get systematically deleted. It's often on corporate whims. For audio reasons, we've talked about this, where they will just take away the audio of a video. Now that video is pretty much useless. It doesn't work as the same play artifact that it was. And so this is so many problems. This is not like uncommon. We as librarians know that every media has these kinds of bugaboos where there's a certain shelf life to them. I wouldn't even say that play is necessarily the shortest of media life, but it's pretty short. It just, the videos get shared, they get disseminated, and they get gone. Some of these videos took me a couple hours to find, and I'm just like, I need this video. You have to either be there. You have to have heard about it. You have to have seen that this is a thing. And then there's the vertical video format. I try to warn folks who perform games, hey, put stuff onto vertical video apps. It's very important. Do not make it your primary place. That is not a home. That is a bar. That is not a place that you can set a nest. That nest will be on that is a castle made of sand. And it's great sand. You want to be there on the beach, with your toes out, having a good time. But that's not a home. And so the context of the video gets collapsed really hard and then scrolled away from. You definitely not, like, TikTok artifacts, I probably have a shorter shelf life than the play-based artifacts that I've been talking about here today. So putting that in mind, connecting those two dots, it's really important. Hey, keep an eye on those TikToks because they might not be around forever. Instagram videos, YouTube Shorts also. YouTube Shorts are really hard to surface. They do not save well. You post them, they get popped up, and then after a week, they are no longer a part of any algorithm whatsoever. At least that's how it feels. That's how it feels. And so the value on a YouTube short is very minimal, extremely minimal, mostly good for getting people in the door, getting people to see you at a first take for the first time. But other than that, you're not going to save stuff there. So these are some of how we collect these things is very, very difficult. To collect all of this was a huge challenge. But let's move on to, I don't want you up there, do I? I want you up here. There we go. That's the one I wanted. It's live, pal. Risks and opportunities with play artifacts. Let's talk about business. And I want to sell this to folks that are watching this. Thank you for being here for so long. I know this has been a long video, but I hope it's been as much fun as I sold it at the beginning. Hey, I want the top one first. There we go. Let's build down to this. A couple risks here. We have talked about the tensions with the industry and the tensions with developers. There's tensions with gamers too, because gamers really, really respect the industry and the developers. So much so that if you write too loudly about things that they don't like, they will start a consumer riot. This happened in 2013. It was called Gamergate. It was one of the most fundamentally destroying things in video games as a medium, because it gutted, it was the first to gut journalism. It focused on the new games journalism movement and said, we don't like this. We reject this outright, because it exposes games as sometimes silly. And the way they went about that was to attack every woman in the games industry. If they attack every woman that is associated with games in any way whatsoever, then the power of reviews like this, reviews that take a game seriously, a review that looks at a game and makes it more than just the sum of its playful parts, and puts it in context that is real world contexts instead of a game just being a game, that's dangerous. And so we get this a lot where gamers will double down to protect the industry and developers, is what they will say. It is what was the line for Gamergate? It's about ethics in games journalism. That was what they sold it as. But it was specifically to witch hunt the women out of the industry. Any woman that worked on games publicly or talked about games publicly got pushed out and shunned and taken out of positions of power. And this has still genuinely changed how games operate. And like many things with video games, this spilled out into everywhere else shortly after. And so the state that journalism is in now as a whole, the entire field of it, is a result of Gamergate in 2013, because the boys wanted to have their cake and they want to eat it too, and they don't want girls there to tell them how to eat it better. They do not want the games to get better. They want the games to stay the way they are. It is a conservative consumer movement. And so that's a big tension. that one's a big tension. The research field also refuses to play. They follow in the same thing, especially because play is looked at as too big, too scary. It's as we've kind of danced around the subject a little bit. Live streaming has kind of been the only place that has been like an inroad to talking about play on the other side of the thing without having to talk about the game, because Let's Play research was always focused on how the game was impacted by those Let's Players, and the Let's Players' relationship with games overall, which is important research, but does not change the hegemony, right? Risks with play artifacts, they're really hard to obtain. I've made this point. This is a lot of videos. It took a while. There's few metadata standards. Hey, fun fact, there is no Evo Moments 1 through 36. That doesn't exist. If you were looking for them, you will not find them. Evo Moment 37, which is a pillar, it is a foundational part of everything that is video games as we know it. Evo Moment 37 is a meme. It's a joke. It's an inside joke that Evo had so many moments that that was the 37th one. That was the bit. And it's a great bit. But it also does point to that there are a few metadata standards for how we identify play, what we identify it as, how we contain it. Where's my There we go. We share our Emerald Hill Zone beta mix Sonic the Hedgehog 2 by Sieva Gunner. What are the standards out here? Who's controlling all this? That's scary, but let's talk about some opportunities. This is a rich field. The reason that I'm coming to you with this so passionately for multiple hours, again, I really appreciate it, is because it's such a rich field. The world is your oyster. If you are studying play, there's so many things you can do with that, if you can find it, if you can control it, if you can corral it, which comes down to, you know, building your field, setting down your rules, figuring out how you want to obtain data, pull it into repositories, shape it, share it, weed it, whatever you want to do with it. When I did my taxonomy for achievements for this class last year, one of the things that I ended up weeding out of the millions of entries was games that were made specifically for achievements, which means they had thousands upon thousands of achievements that were just dead data. They were just like broken characters and Cyrillic alphabet letters, not language, but just the letter itself as symbol, because they ran out of Greek and Latin letters. And so thousands and thousands of these, you get them all out, suddenly the data shaped a lot better. We saw a bunch of trends with that, with where data was being created, how achievements were being built, pattern behaviors and information patterns around the design of achievements, including what ended up Steam recently has added adult games, which means they have adult achievements. That became part of the data. We had to figure out how we were going to work around that, because a lot of the adult video game data was also spammy in the exact same way that spam achievements were spammy, not in the language, but in the interaction base, because most of them are just, hey, turn on this game, we'll give you 100 achievements. Hey, this is gambling 101. The achievements are free, and then you pay for the DLC. So it's a rich field, and there's so much you can grab from it. There's also experts who care. Getting in contact with a Let's Player, getting in contact with a streamer, getting in contact with people who've historically played games publicly in some way. Those people are young still and very accessible online because that's part of their business. And so even if the media itself is hard to access, the people aren't who may have that. I have personal copies of all of the videos that I've ever made, and I've made a couple thousand. And so I have personal video versions of all of that on hard drives backed up. That's just a me thing. I'm a freak like that. I don't expect everyone to have that, but they might have ways to know how to get access to that information, that data. So that's important. That's what makes the field so rich. It is also a Wild West for theory. We still need a lot of base on the theory of how people play games. Studies have only gotten as far as what achievements have really shown us, as far as, like, you know, there's tons of work studying people who play video games, but they're studying it to make video games better, which inherently puts the player's output below the artifact of the video game itself. Thus, we don't get that wider perspective, that much, much wider perspective. It's not that that's not important. It really is. But it is the standard. It is the way things go right now, and it hasn't gotten us to all of the places it could. So video games provide a focused lens into play, and that lens can be applied way beyond the field of video games. As we've seen, I've tried to stretch our definition, but I don't feel like I've even stretched it very far, because play is so broad. It's so big. It's not too scary. I want to reiterate that, like, it's big, but it's not too scary. Video games are also very big, maybe bigger in the numbers of media that they touch immediately. But it's important. I think that there's ways that you could study the play around a single video game and have that be an extremely rich report, and just show, like, a perfect game for this would be hit 2022 video game. Oh, Solaris, Dollar Tree. Oh, we're 2.5 hours in this lecture. What's the Robot Girls video game that looks like Resident Evil? Yeah, we're close. Detroit Become Human, no. Atomic Heart, no. Signalis, thank you. Signalis, highly recommended video game. These are definitely the reviews of Signalis. Store page. Signalis is a indie game that you can beat in about 12 hours, so I wouldn't say it's a big video game. Maybe less than that, 9 or 10 hours. I think I did it in 2 streams. It's small enough to take it in a bite size, but its community is very wide and has a lot of ways that it expresses itself. I can go to, yeah, lots of great screenshots, lots of artwork. Look, there's the soundtrack. This is the collector's edition. There's girls kissing. I'm gonna touch it. There's just a lot of ways they express themselves that it's really, really cool to see. And so within that space, there's you could build an entire field of all of the different ways people are playing that don't involve the game itself. See, one of the other problems with where game studies is right now is that they need the video game to study. And players don't. Many players play video games without holding the video game in their hands. They think about the game on the bus. They figure out what kind of strategies they want to use. They talk about it with their friends. They watch videos about the game. That's not the video game being played, but that is play. That is them playing the game in a very, maybe this is a little too abstracted from other people's definitions of playing a video game, but I think it's fundamental to how a lot of people play video games that's not being studied. And so that's why there's a great opportunity here for the rejection of modern game studies that can help grow game studies. And I mean, we don't really know what that rejection could look like, but I see a little bit, something stuck down here. Nope, that's that. What? Hey. Hello? Ooh. Experimental game study zone. Ooh. Anti-formalism. Okay, yeah, that's the thought that there is a formalism in game studies that impacts the hegemony of how games are understood, and that an anti-formalism is necessary to build out a stronger game studies by recognizing that the game is not the only thing being played here. There's a lot to it. It's a very cool field, and it needs to have a new renaissance. Kill Gameplay. This is a small movement run by Droken, who's a game developer, who has found that trying to design gameplay sucks. Once again, the word gameplay, I talked about this at the beginning, is a word that people use to describe how a game feels when you play it, but it's not effective. And because it's not effective, it becomes infective. That gamers demand good gameplay. And game developers have to go, I don't know what they mean, so I'll just make the same thing again. If I make the same thing again, it will have good gameplay. This is anti-experimental. This is if you're building gameplay for your game, then you're building something that already exists. And so #kill gameplay, they use the word kill as kind of a gamer word, but also to like drive the imperative home that you've got to kill the gameplay in your head if you want to make something that's different. If you want to make art, if you want to make expression, if you want to put something in your game that will challenge players. But remember, players, they had a big stink about it when they got challenged. So it's scary. It's scary to challenge players. So you have to be brave. That's why you have to kill gameplay. You have to kill it. You have to kill it dead. You have to stop it. This is, it's a very hard thing to say. And these are things that are not like popular. These are not popular thoughts at all. Ludopoetics, I made that up. I'm going to be honest with you. I just think it sounds pretty. But there's a lot about the poetics of games that are not being researched, that are not being worked on, especially because they come from mostly the play side of things. it's hard to capture and it's hard to design for. And so poetics inside of games, I refer to this as like a ludopoetic would be when the game menu remembers where you last put it. And so when you go back through a menu, it puts you back in the same spot that you were. So like if you choose an attack and you say, I'm going to use Magic Missile, and the game goes, the last move you used was Magic Missile. So if you go to the Magic menu, we're going to automatically put you on Magic Missile because we assume you might want to use it again. Thank you, video game. That's where I left my cursor. You got it. That's ludopoetics. I think that's a playful poetics that you can kind of use as a standard for video games, and that if a game wants to subvert that standard, they can do it thoughtfully. They can do it with intention in mind, and that's important. Dramaturgy. This is also me. Sorry. I'm going to push for this because dramaturgy in games is very, very poorly explored. I need more of this. Remember that book? I'm so glad I have all these resources just on hand. I'm going to close all of these and cry. Hey, remember that time when Kurbani Singh was a guy and then he became a different guy? And now he's Ben Abraham, and now we call him Kurbani Ben? That's dramaturgy. This is the player in performance. The player is often in performance. And yet, this is such a new field that play is hard to say. And then there's not games. This is another game design field. Not games is a game design field. And this list, except for the things that I added, we'll put that game study zone back. Hold on, let's take it back here. This all comes from, and here's our last clip of the night. The Karina Pop put together this lecture at the NYU Game Center a few months ago called "Bite the Hand," and it's the first time I've heard the word. What is it? It's the first time I heard the word anti-formalism for 12 years. It's been a long time. But she makes what I think is a really powerful point at the NYU Game Center, at the place that yelled at the... this is such a dumb story. My roommate on Twitter put some words together on Twitter that made the person who runs, the dean of the NYU Game Center, really angry. And it made him want to shut down anti-formalism and say that formalism was fake. And so the NYU Game Center is explicitly the place that killed anti-formalism. We can say it with extreme certainty that it is their fault that we do not have these fields of research. Sorry, so Creative Pop is going to present this at the place that killed it. The comments are long and not kind. This is unpopular.
And knowledge, aka game design, was railroaded through commercial design. The fulcrum of commercial design is a user from whom value can be extracted. Thus, game design as a field of knowledge is inaccurate and insufficient for an enduring means of creating and understanding video games. It is inaccurate in that it obsessively obfuscates its commercial interests under the guise of play and creativity. It is insufficient in that commercial interests can only produce a narrow range of experiences. Without a complete deconstruction, and in some cases rejection of the field, video game making as a form of human expression will be stuck in a boom-bust cycle that lives only on the goodwill and success of an industry that is a net negative for our society and our planet.
Very simple. Like, this is not complicated what she is saying. Krita is very, very clear that there's commercial aspects of within game studies that puts the fulcrum in the favor of the game designer. And she, they, I don't actually know. They have a little Q&A at the end here. I think it is right here is the spot. A good little Q&A that I'm going to add, mostly because, hey, Clara Fernandez-Vara from our reading.
Like sort of mistakes that those movements have made that we can kind of learn from, like shortcomings that they failed to kind of, that trap them from there. Yeah.
This is talking about the failures of the movements of the past, where a lot of Gamergate, a lot of NYU shutting things down got in the way. Let's see what she says.
That is a good question. And my ego-stroking answer is that I think that their problem is that they always clung to game design desperately as like an immutable truth of what it meant to make games. And that even, like if you look at like the Not Games manifesto, it still has talks about design. And I don't understand how you can extract contemporary design from what it does and what it is to make it into something beautiful. And so I don't want to be like the word police, but I think that a part of the construction of knowledge is the words that we use, the words that we choose to use and what they mean. And when you
because that buffers. But one of the points that they're making here is that Call of Duty cannot be art. And this is not in like the oh, you know, this art is subjective and stuff. But no, we've already made the Call of Duty art, and we saw it earlier in this presentation. Spec Ops: The Line was that expression. It was that version. It was the thing that says, hey, what if you're doing war crimes and we actually like punish you and tell you about that? What if we make it very poignant that you are doing wicked, evil things for an empire that you are a pawn inside of? That's Spec Ops: The Line, and it doesn't exist anymore. So not only have we been there and done that, but it didn't get us anywhere further. We're now stuck on the same cycle of making these same games and expressing the same things over and over. It is stagnant because of these conservatisms. And Corinna is saying that comes from game design being the centerpiece. And so this is why it's so important when Lane is talking about game design being the fundamental place that that definitions need to come from in game studies. And that's why I'm on the inverse side also saying yes, and we need to reject that. Like that's why I'm a champion for Lane in so many ways, is because I need Lane to be that guiding light on game design and game studies in that way, so that we can start building the librarianship. We can build these classification schemas for video games to figure them out better, and then also so that we can reject them to make art. And so that art needs places to cling on to. The places that art can cling on to is inside of the academy, inside of schools. And so since that isn't happening in game studies schools, because they are trying to get players, they're trying to get designers and developers into an industry that wants to churn the same games over and over for massive amounts of money, because that's the safe bet. That means that the field is stagnant as well as the industry. So this is part of that challenge to get around that. This is why this is all a very, very long way to say, hey, if you get into game play, if you get into the study of play, take with you some of these experimental game studies, because they become a really important shield against the really worst parts of how studying the play of games runs into these risks. And so, yeah, this is all like a long way to say, here's all the ways that we play games. Here's the artifacts that come out of it. Here's how to study them. Here's examples of how you can study them. Here's a game that you could probably build a really good artifact museum around. And also, here's the things that you do need to protect yourself against from the field itself, because this is dangerous. This is on a cutting edge that is not a place that people like going. And so just to warn them up ahead of time that because of the limits of the ways field study, that's why I had to become a librarian to get all of this going. I could not do this through game studies. I could not go to the NYU Game Center and say, hey, I have some radical ideas on play. They would go, no, you don't, because those aren't part of our definitions. However, the libraries can, because we can build these things out as artifacts, we can identify them, we can classify them, and we can classify where they come from. So that is the lecture. That is the whole thing. They gave me the microphone. I was going to take it and run with it as far as I could. Thank you so much for being here. This has been an absolute treasure of joy. I hope this all made sense. I really, just thinking back on it, feel like I hit everything I possibly could. I don't think I've left a single stone unturned here for now until tomorrow. Something else will happen tomorrow. So let me leave you with a couple further readings. Boom! Hey, have you seen the video game library? This is one of the most important things that we got right now. And the video game library has sections for many different things. They've just put together a streaming section. And so this is just in a row, 3 of the best books on streaming that all came out in the last, I think, 2 years total. Nathan Grayson's Stream Big. Nathan Grayson is a games journalist first, who then, after Gamergate, got the fuck out of games journalism. Actually, he's still in there. He does work with an independent outlet because, you know, you get pushed out of the main places into independent outlets. That's where the news happens now. That's again, games are always on the cutting edge of how you portray media, and so look out for independent journalist outlets. That's the new thing. That it'll probably turn into mailing lists again. So if you want real news from real journalists doing investigative journalism, it's probably going to be mailing list based for the next couple of years. Streaming by the rest of us. This is Mia Consalvo, who's a game studies, huge name in game studies, awesome work all over the place, really understands games at a mechanical level, at a design level, and also talked about streaming video games. And not by like the big groups, but the streams that I showed you where it's just 1 or 2 people watching. Maybe it's for information. Maybe it's for their own indulgence. Maybe it's just for fun in a vague sense. Maybe it's for a community. Maybe it's for saving the artifact by itself for some reason. Streaming happens in a lot of ways and produces a lot of really cool stuff. And so that's what this says. And then Real Life in Real Time. This is Bo Ruberg. This is going to be queer studies and game studies all at once. People studies. This is the more anthropological side of live streaming, talking about real folks, how they live, how they produce live streams. Awesome book. And then the Close Playing book. Oh, where did it go? I want to search. Oh. Give it to me. I know it's Edmund. Where is it? You? Where did it go? Sorry, book that just came out. And so I want to make sure I got the stuff right for it. Sorry, it is a live stream, isn't it? I bet if I put in the co-writer, it will show up. Oh, but is it Tim or Timothy? Let's call it video Close Playing. There we go. Edmund Y. Chang. Wasn't even close. What a shame. This is my old mentor from a decade ago, and I don't even got his name right. Ed and Tim have written a book called Video Games, Literature, and Close Playing. This is a practical guide that offers 24 cases. This is actually a close playing workbook. This is a book that you can take with you while you play a game to build your own artifact out of the game. And so I just think it's incredibly powerful and potent. A lot of the stuff that I've talked about here is inspired by Edmund's work with Close Playing. And so they are going to be talking on campus on Tuesday. They will be at UW at the Suzzalo OSC, the Open Scholarship Commons. and I will be hosting that talk before our class starts. So the talk starts at 4, our class starts at 5:30, and so I will be taking a train of all of us that are at the talk at Ed's talk for this book, and we're gonna go straight from there to class together and have a really good day of just video games all day. I don't know. To me, that sounds awesome. But I want to leave you with a couple of books to read, a bunch of new stuff, because this is such a new space, and so there's a lot of value to be had. And that is all of my energy. That is as long as a lecture in class goes. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for just being here, for watching any and all of this. For some gamers, this is all very normal. But I feel like there's something in here that everyone can see and go, wow, I didn't know that you could even look at games in that way. This is a very, very wide look at all of the ways that a video game can be transformed, just from how the game is, the culture around it, into something that is tangible, something that is very raw and physical. And there's just so many ways this can go. So I've been Solid. I've been your guest lecturer. There will never be a longer guest lecture than this. So you survived. Congratulations. I hope if you had this on 2x speed, good job. I don't know how you would do that, because there's so much media constantly happening at you with very loud noises and stuff, but good job. I understand the hustle. I am there often. And you can find me at ChoreBSP on Twitch any days that there's not school. So I will see y'all online if I don't see you in class before. Hey, it's been awesome being able to be here as part of this class, and so I've not taken it for granted for even a second that I get any kind of audience with some of the smartest people that I've ever gotten to meet and work with. And so I just value that a lot. I treasure that a lot. Thank you, and have a good Thanksgiving. Have a good turkey week. We don't have school for days. Just relax. Take it easy. Sorry I made your job a little harder taking it easy, but, I showed you a dog hit a home run. That dog did hit that home run in front of thousands of people. And they were such a good dog. All right, I'm done. Thank you all for your time.